They believe that this is the final battle. And they say all of this stuff openly.
Is the war in Iran the beginning of World War III? Check out this clip over here with Glenn Beck. We'll watch it together, then talk about it. But first, hit subscribe in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch.
I want to talk to you about the big picture. And it's going to sound like I'm talking about the war with Iran. You might think I'm talking about this, and in some ways I am. But I want to make it clear, I am not pushing for or advocating for war, a physical war, with Iran or anybody else. But war is not just coming, it is here. And I mean the kind of war that does not use battleships. Everything in the world will become much clearer if you look at things with different eyes. Not political eyes, not partisan eyes, but if you start looking at things through spiritual eyes, you will realize something very sobering is happening. We are not dealing just with bad policy. Okay, that's how a lot of this started. We were dealing with bad policy. We got lazy. We didn't pay attention to different things. We made wrong choices, and then it just stacked up. And then we thought we were having to reverse all those things. Who are we going to elect to fix all of these things? But we are confronting evil now that is convinced itself that it is righteous. And that combination has always been the most dangerous force in all of human history. So let me start with the war in Iran. People in Washington are talking about Iran as another just geopolitical rival, another regime that we could possibly negotiate, another government, seeking influence. But the regime in Tehran is not just political. The regime in Iran is built on a theological revolution. The clerics that took over in 1979, they didn't just overthrow a government. They built a system designed to export their ideology all across the globe. And what is that ideology produced? Let me talk to you about the actual record in Iran. In Iran, women can be beaten in the street by the morality police for showing too much hair. Young girls have been dragged into vans in prison and tortured. We saw it a few years ago when the woman who was arrested for not wearing her hijab properly was killed in prison. How about the 9-year-olds that they are insisting are cool to marry now a 50-year-old guy? When there's protests in the streets, thousands are arrested. Thousands are killed. Some protesters are executed publicly. Young men have been hung from cranes. Children are imprisoned. Girls assaulted in prison. You have homosexuals that are thrown off roofs or beheaded in the public square. And it's all being done in the name of God. And that same regime has spent decades exporting the violence and this ideology all across the world. They fund Hezbollah in Lebanon. But Hezbollah was in Venezuela. They arm Hamas. They finance militias in Iraq and Syria. They support terror cells across continents. The revolution was never meant to stay in Iran because it is a spiritual battle for them. It is religious. They believe they're welcoming the 12th Imam, the Mahdi, which this one, the 12th Imam, actually comes back after climbing out of a well, and he rules the world and washes the world in blood. They believe that this is the final battle, and they say all of this stuff openly. But here's the part that should concern everybody. Because, I don't know how many people are here that have been influenced inside our own country, have been influenced by this. I don't know. Do you know? We know there are sleeper networks that apparently have been activated, but we don't know. We know extremist recruitment exists, but we don't know the scope. But let me bring you here to home, here in New York. We were just reminded how real that threat is just over the weekend. 2 Afghan immigrants, young men, whose family came to this country to escape the war years ago, own, I think, a convenience store, live in a nice house. They decided their faith had been insulted, so they built a bomb. It's called the bomb of Satan. Okay? It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't, it was a crude device. Thank God it didn't go off, but it was packed with screws and bolts. According to the FBI, if that thing would have worked, it would have caused more damage in that crowd than the Boston Marathon bombing. Let that sink in for a minute. Hundreds of innocent people on the street, men, women, children, torn apart by metal shrapnel. And why did they do it? In the name of their God. Let me stop here for a second and just say something really clear. No God commands you to murder innocent people walking down the street. No God orders you to do that. Satan does, God does not. That's not faith. That is evil wearing the mask of faith. We're in a spiritual battle, and you cannot defeat evil if you refuse to recognize it. You can't defend our civilization if you abandon the moral foundation that built it. We can't protect our nation if we're spiritually asleep. Are you awake? Can you even see the spiritual battle that is unfolding right now? Can you notice that people everywhere, the majority, are pretending, or maybe they're not pretending, they really believe that these are just political disagreements? If we refuse to see it, if we refuse to stand up and say, guys, that's not what this is about, then we're continuing to normalize evil.
In order to understand this, it's very frustrating for geopolitical analysts who look at this and say, well, what power? Is it the oil? Is it the wealth? Is it the power? Is it just a lust, a desire to control the world? Is that what this really is about? Or perhaps this war is for the very fabric of humanity. It's for all humanity to recognize that God's prediction, prophecy, written in prophets, that the Jews will return to the land, will rebuild this country, and establish it as the Jewish nation. You see, Iran, their ideology is the ideology of the 12 Muslims. And that is that we go out with a battle. And this final battle will be the battle against the Jews, against the infidels, and against the Christians, and against anybody who doesn't accept their religion. And the fact that the Jews have come back and rebuilt their land, that stares in their face. And if we look at the October 7th war, we look what happened in Gaza. Every soldier who walked into a house in Gaza, what they saw on the walls there was the same. The picture of Al-Aqsa Mosque, the mosque on the Temple Mount, and they wanted the world to see and know, and they wanted for themselves to know that this battle was the battle of spirituality. Do the Jews have a right to this land? Yes. The ones who have returned, the ones who have rebuilt this land, the ones who have fulfilled the prophecy that is written over and over again in Ezekiel and Isaiah throughout all the prophets, that the Jews will return. And they have returned. That stares in their face. And they want to have a battle. So why did Trump get involved? Trump, if you think about it, had everything to lose by getting involved in this. In fact, his entire career, everything that he's built up until today, is at stake. Because if this turns out to be a mistake, and there's great tragedy now, which comes from this, he will be blamed and go down in history as the president who started an unnecessary war, who got involved in a conflict that wasn't his conflict.
Take a look at what happened.
Lara,
you.
I got to start with I got to start with this crazy question, because I know your father somewhat, not like you do, not like the family does, but I think all of America knows your father enough to say nobody leads him around by the nose. But we are now hearing that Israel has dragged Donald Trump into this war, and it's coming from the president, some of the president's former supporters in right-wing media, saying that he's just been duped by Israel. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. The only person who makes decisions for Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And you don't actually have to even spend that much time around him, Glenn, to know that that's the case. He takes, account of what people around him have to say. He likes to get a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts, which any smart person and any good leader would actually do. But then he's the person who makes that decision. And let's be really clear, when it comes to Iran, this is a regime that has been for nearly 50 years chanting death to America and death to Israel. They call us the big Satan. They call Israel the little Satan. They were on the verge of developing a nuclear weapon. That would have been detrimental not only to the United States, but to the entire world. And this president has always said he wants to put America first. You don't have an America if Iran has a nuclear weapon, because we know they would have deployed it on us. They want to wipe us off the map. So the reason that we went in, the reason that this was the time, according to this president and all of his intelligence, is because you can't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. The talks were going nowhere between, Jared, my brother-in-law, and Steve Witkoff. This was the right time. So no one has made any decision other than this president, based on the intelligence, based on his assessment of things, based on the fact that he wants to put America first and protect American citizens above all else.
The nuclear weapon thing, I've been on Iran my whole career. I've been talking about Iran. They're extraordinarily dangerous because they're 12ers. They're Shia 12ers that believe in the 12th Imam is going to return. And so a lot of their speeches from their president has been in the past, "Oh, Allah, help me have the strength to hasten the return of the promised one." That is like Book of Revelation stuff, really, really scary. To hasten the return of the promised one, they have to wash the world in blood and burn it in the fiery furnace of the Islamic fury, okay? That sounds like a nuclear weapon, that last part. And they're dead serious because they actually believe these things. But I've heard the nuclear weapon thing for so long, I don't think that rings like a defense with people, because they're like, first of all, remember and your father was all over this when it happened, the Iraq war, when that happened, the, weapons of mass destruction's lie that we got. But what was it that tipped him on this time? Because I have personally been told over and over again for 25 years, they could be weeks away. What was it this time that made him go, that we have to take care of it right now? Or was it a bunch of stuff, including that?
Yeah, listen, I obviously don't get the detailed intelligence briefings like he does, but I'll just say this. I think that this president has always known, and maybe he knew more than ever after Butler, Pennsylvania happened, that he was really made for this moment. And I mean that in so many different senses. I think he definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, believes that his life was spared in Butler, Pennsylvania, so that he could go on to lead this country. And he was made for such a time as this. I don't know, Glenn, that you would have ever gotten another person in that office at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue who would have had the guts to do this. People, treated Iran with kid gloves for so long. My God, we had Obama sending pallets of cash. Biden sent cash back to them as well. He had no strength on the world stage. And I don't know that this president thinks that there would have ever been anyone else who would have seized a moment like we have right now to take care of a problem that would have gone on in perpetuity. And let's face it, we know if they had the means to do it, they would wipe us off the map.
Yes.
And so, like so many other things, other presidents have talked about it before, much like, recognizing the Golan Heights and moving the embassy in Israel, in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This is something this president said, so many people have talked about it before. I'm actually going to do it. I'm actually going to do the right thing here, because I actually don't think he thought anyone else would have the guts to do it. And he's probably right.
So I 100% agree about Butler. I mean, he told me what he was thinking when he was down on the ground with a pile of Secret Service agents. He was like, "You're not afraid. Get up. This is embarrassing. You're not afraid of these people. Get up. You're the president." And I thought, boy, there's like nobody that kind of thinks that way when somebody's shooting at you. There's almost nobody that thinks that way. So he was made for this time.
You see, the second you understand that this war is not a war about politics, it's not about control of land, it's about the destiny of the Jewish people. It's the destiny of humanity, because God very easily can control destiny. And he does. And that's what the prophets are about. The prophets tell us the way things will end. And the only question left for humanity is, will we get on the train of reality? Or will we continue our battle with reality? Not accepting that this isn't a geopolitical argument. This is a spiritual battle. But the spiritual battle isn't just on morality. It's on the Word of God. You see, if the Word of God is true and has been fulfilled by the Jews returning to the land, then God's very name will be at stake. And here's where I come to what I think is the most important question we need to ask. And that is, why did God gift Trump, America, the opportunity to be a part of this happening? And for this, it's very simple. We need to understand this, and it's not something that's obvious, but it's simple. You see, the Torah, the Jewish people, their destiny works together with the entire world. Our job is not to radicalize the world. It's not to get the world to convert to Judaism. In fact, converts, anybody who is a convert will tell you that it's not easy. So we're not a race even. We allow people to join, but we want committed people. So what is the destiny of the Jewish people? What is the final plan that God has for humanity? And this, my friends, is the very question of the spiritual nature of this war. Are we going to become a world where force and submission are the keys? Or are we going to develop into a world where we look at prophecy, we see the fulfillment, and we see the hand of God? We see the missiles flying towards Israel. If I were to tell you that Isaiah would write about missiles coming out of the sky and Israel shooting up rockets to destroy them, yes, there are 2,400 casualties, not casualties, 24 people injured, 2,400 people injured in Israel during this current war. So we need prayer. But we also need the world's support. And that we could leave up to God. God could, with a bullet just touching the tip of his ear, change Trump's heart. That was done from above. And Trump said this many times, that God spoke to him and spared his life so he could save the Jewish people. Now, will the Jewish people be saved without Trump? Absolutely. But he was gifted this. You know, his children are Jewish, have converted. His daughter has converted to Judaism. And we never know where the salvation will come, because God gifts people the opportunity to be a part of history unfolding. In history, when we say there's prophecy, what we're saying is that there's an outcome, and the outcome is clear. The Jews return to the land, and God's name is known, and all knees will bow down to God. And that's what we're witnessing. How long this takes place, how long this happens, it's hard to say. One thing is clear, that the Messianic times is speeding up, and we're witnessing amazing things. This Saturday, we're going to be announcing the coming of the month of Nisan. Nisan is when Passover is, on the 15th of Nisan, and that's when the Jews left Egypt. And Nisan is the time when the Jews were physically redeemed. And it's quite clear that the redemption process is not just unfolding, but has become center stage. And the whole world is watching, and they can choose which side do they want to be on. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this program, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, Shavua Tov.